So what gets me up in the morning and gets me to this job is working with my farmers, helping them being profitable, helping them being sustainable, getting out of their box and doing things differently so that they can maintain their lifestyle, maintain their land and their legacy.
What gets me up in the morning is a good puzzle. I like figuring out, I like having an idea of something, but then the reality of it is so far from the idea, I like filling in the gaps in between. So my job is to take big nebulous ideas and breathe life into them through a program. And the best part is working with people on the ground to make sense of it. So yeah, I like it when I get a random call about a random idea and then I see how far it can go.
We're problem solvers, both of us.
Yeah, we are.
I spent my whole life growing up being the only girl at the stockyard and the only girl doing this and that. And I fought so hard not to be the only girl doing certain things, whereas now there are women everywhere in this. But I just don't think there's a division. You know, I think we're all in it together.
So on the cattleman point, for me, pride is the first thing I think of. And comes this need to preserve and protect their heritage, and an interest to see their families carry it on. But with that pride comes defensiveness, especially if you're not from the community. And having come from a small community in India, I know what it's like when someone from outside comes in. So with that comes a lot of respect and a lot of sensitivity around conversations around light topics like land and legacy. What drew me to AFF was there was an opportunity to tap into the power of carbon markets and see if there was an economic opportunity for farmers through forestry. I come from a background of sustainable forestry, so that drew me in. But this job and working here, working with Tammy, connected me to another chapter of mine in India, which is working with smallholder farmers in drought-prone areas. Here, you have farmers that are struggling to keep their farms working. So how can carbon and timber be stacked as additional revenue streams? So same kind of topic, but different products, different commodities. And I found that particularly, that once that drew me in, nothing stopped me. Yeah.
So Arjun called me out of the blue. I'd had a good friend of mine in South Georgia that said, "You're going to kill me. I gave you this man's phone number. I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to text it to you. And he's going to be calling you something about planting trees and open land or whatever." So I was like, okay. So a week or so went by and Arjun called me. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but I know the first thing, my second sentence to him was, "So you know I hate pine trees, right? So this might not work." And he said, "Why?" And I told him, basically because it cuts down on acreage for cattle to graze, or acreage for us to bale hay, or acreage for somebody to plant cotton or soybeans. And we talked for a while, and I kind of, as he calls it, sussed him out because I'm very protective of my farmers, my group here. And if I can stop somebody from coming into the group that's going to do any harm, then that's what I do. And if I can find people to bring into this group that's going to help them, then that's what I do. So we agreed that we'd get together in person and see couldn't we come to a mutual understanding.
Earlier today, we were talking about two types of Southern cultures. There's the bless your heart culture, which is, does this person like me? Does this person not like me? Are they genuinely blessing my heart? I do not know. I guess I'll find out later. And then there's, especially in farming communities, I'm going to tell you what I think in the first 5 minutes. And that's refreshing. Coming from a place where we also have very direct communication styles. I knew very quickly that Tammy and I had common ground to work off of. We both come from communities that are connected to the land, so I think that was prevalent throughout the call.
I like people that don't quit either, because I'm not a quitter and he wasn't either. So, you know, anybody that's not a quitter, I'm partial to.
Likewise.
When Arjun and I first started this relationship, this project was called Reforestation of the South. And that was probably mine and Arjun's biggest disagreement of our relationship. Because reforestation in the southern part of the United States brings bad memories to people who were farming in the 80s.
I think one thing Tammy made very clear to me is that reforestation leaves no room in the conversation for anything else. It's just trees. We're going to take out everything you got going on, but not just take it out. We're going to ignore that history, and we're just here to plant trees. And I mean, foresters do an amazing and very important function in this program. But, you know, they're motivated by just getting trees in the ground. It's a much longer conversation, and I think Tammy really opened my eyes to that. Like that point, that thinking of reforestation that way takes all the oxygen out of the room.
So the opportunity that I saw in this program was for some of my older farmers that wanted to transition out but still farm and still have their property here for their kids and grandkids. You know, I saw that as a place that this could fit, that they could plant trees and be making a profit on it, that they didn't have to pay to have the trees planted. They still own their property. You know, I didn't and I still don't think this program is just widespread for everybody. But I do think that niche, it has a very important place with those people. This gives them the opportunity to have a forestry crop that they don't have to pay for or fund.
Well, next it was time to meet Tammy's community. That's where the real check happened. It was engaging with people who, when I took the job and I was understanding about carbon markets, I was reading all these white papers. Carbon sequestration was the term stuck in my head. I had to undo that and start learning about words like capture instead of sequestration. I needed to make the language accessible to the people that I was talking to. So Tammy then invited me to visit a few months later. And we had a meeting just in the other room. And I don't know, the energy in the room, it was curious, slightly, at least from my perspective, slightly tense because they didn't know what I was about. I didn't know what they were about. But within about 30 to 45 minutes, I realized that Tammy had really opened the door for me, and they were willing to give me a chance to really explain this work. Not only that, but I was actually able to refer to this moment to open up doors in other counties in Georgia and Alabama. It was a pivotal moment. And in the South, I mean, it's about who you know and will they vet for you at the end of the day. Do they think you are a good, dependable person? And can they vouch for you in other situations? And if they can, the doors will open. So it was a pivotal moment in the program. What's my day job? My day job is, I have a list of assumptions from different people. I've got science assumptions. You know, there's a permanence section. There's an additionality section. There's financial assumptions. There's funding assumptions. You know, 3-4 years ago, it's like, the money will come. We just need to be plodding along. There's landowner assumptions. And my job is to take each of those assumptions, run them on the ground and see how they play out, and then go back and see how far off the mark we are. So it's really just, it's a big stir fry of lots of hypotheses and assumptions and figuring out what makes sense, what doesn't, chuck it out, go back. I love a good puzzle.